This episode of the Boat Geeks is sponsored by The Boater's Guide, a free app for Pacific Northwest boaters. The Boater's Guide is adventure and information, right at your fingertips, right when you need it. Find your happy place with The Boater's Guide, a free download on your phone or tablet in the App Store and Google Play.
On this episode of the Boat Geeks, we have Mr. Peter Knowles from Travels with Geordie, the YouTube channel.
The famous YouTube channel.
That's right. I think there's not enough good stuff I can say about Peter.
Yeah.
He is such an jolly, amiable fellow.
and he's a modern day Renaissance man.
He is. He can do everything.
He can do anything, I think. I mean, he can make wonderful videos. He can fix cars. He can rebuild boats. He can work on boats. He knows beer.
Yeah. And he's working on like 3 or 4 wooden boats at the same time. He's also a glutton for punishment. But just a super nice guy. I love his personality.
Yeah.
And that's what also made me fall in love with his YouTube channel is his personality. It's just all over it. And super great guest, super fun person. I hope he's a friend. You know, I want to. I kind of want to have beer of the week every.
Yeah, I know.
Or beer of the podcast every podcast.
That was
now.
fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, just a unique experience. Great guy. I would totally recommend checking out his YouTube channel, Travels with Geordie. Great episode. Here it is.
From beautiful Port Townsend, Washington, a Victorian seaport on the Salish Sea, and recorded aboard the motor vessel Traveler. It's the Boat Geeks with Darren and Daeron.
I'm daydreaming of a day. I'm not wasting my time. Don't wait till I come alive. Sail away. I'ma sail away.
Welcome to another episode of the Boat Geeks. I am your host, Darren.
And I'm your other host, Darren.
And today we have a very special guest. We're very pleased to have with us on the podcast today, Mr. Peter Knowles, who I am going to call a shipwright because I've watched so many of your videos.
I can't do that.
But I know you have a hard time accepting that title. But anyway, you're at least a very talented handyman with boats, at the very least. I'm going to consider you a shipwright.
I play one on TV.
You play one on TV. That works. And a content creator, live aboard, boat live aboard. You're into the classics, the wooden boats. And you have a YouTube channel. You have a website. You have a YouTube channel. You're creating content out there on Travels with Geordie. You can find the website travelswithgeordie.com, and you can go to YouTube and search Travels with Geordie.
We'll put it up right here.
We will put it up right there, and there will be links in the show notes as well, for sure. Highly recommend if you're interested in wood boats, if you're interested in cruising the Pacific Northwest, if you're interested in woodwork, and
if you're interested in cool guys,
creative, a very creative personality, and a hilarious guy, and behind us, his girlfriend Andrea, who's also living on his monk with him. It's totally worthwhile. Great content, and very fun to watch with him.
And I gotta say, he's prolific with video content creation. 460 plus.
466 videos.
Oh my gosh!
And you are about to, and you could be the person that does it.
Put him over the top.
Put him over the top. He's about to eclipse 10 million views. So literally, you could be the people that put him over that line.
Well, I hope you are.
Yes, exactly. So
I didn't know
congratulations.
that. Well, thank you very much. That really means a lot. It's been a long time, and that's what 7
years.
Eventually, right? Eventually, you pump out a fair number of episodes. But no, I was kind of surprised when I rolled over 400. And now I'm talking 400 episodes. So you're right. There's more shows because of live streams and other kinds of bonus stuff. But it felt kind of cool to have been at this for that long, and it's still being as much fun as it was. Really, in some ways, more fun. Obviously,
cool
because you have more opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just more fodder for opportunity. I mean, we got too many boats, right? Too many opportunities.
3 many, not too many.
3 many.
Yeah, 3 many.
Actually, 4 many.
No.
Whoa.
The little Peterborough, you may not have noticed, but there's a teeny little wooden runabout in the fleet.
Nice.
This guy has a fleet of wooden boats.
Yeah, Aaron and Nico need to meet.
We need to do an introduction there for sure.
Excellent.
They're the ones with Longship Marine down in Poulsbo,
Which I'm so excited to go check out.
Yeah, we are going to introduce you. I feel like there's so much to talk about with you, but the way we typically start off our podcast is to find out why you are interested in boats, why you love boats, why you're a boat geek. And I just happen to know you are. I've never seen another person who I feel matches our passion for just every little aspect of boats. When I see you working on your boats, you can get so excited about the smallest things, and I can just tell that you are genuine and you have a passion for boats. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And if I can jump back, have you asked the question about how I got into boats?
Yeah.
Well,
Did you ask it? Okay, well, let me run it because exactly. Are either of you familiar with the British author Arthur Ransom?
No.
And the Swallows and Amazon series? You may have heard of Swallows and Amazons. It was maybe it was a TV show, it was a movie. Anyway, this is an author in the early 20s, and those who really know might correct me, who created a series of books, very much like perhaps the Wind in the Willows. It becomes epic. And what's that expression from then? There's nothing quite so much worth doing. As doing is simply messing about in boats. Exactly. Well, it's sort of that same era. It's that same feeling. It's an English understanding of boats and young people. Yeah. So these are a series of they're children's books, but they're about boating, and they're about building a passion for boating. And my father, God bless him, a boater and a man with a passion for boating, had been given these books when he was a child, and he passed them on to me. Footnote, I successfully purchased another vintage set and having them shipped directly to my pregnant daughter in Nova Scotia, who's going to give birth to my grandson this summer.
Congratulations.
So those books will move on to that. Yeah. Anyway, so for those of you who are listening that know of the Arthur Ransom series, it is a fantastic first introduction to the passion of boating, not just the romance of it, but really the nitty-gritty, how to fix it, how to sail, how to deal with problems with boating, how to deal with the culture of boating. So that did it. Of course, again, I grew up boating because my dad was always into boating.
What age were you when you started reading the series of books?
Oh, would have been quite young. I'm really bad at ages. Six? Can I just guess six?
Yeah,
we can say that's okay.
Close enough.
But I was sailing at like 4. My parents rented a cottage in the Eastern Townships of Montreal, which is Lake District of Quebec. And I grew up in Montreal. And they always rented a cottage, and they would build a boat every summer.
Wow.
Just for the heck of it. Catamarans, big boats, small boats, whatever. Wow. And just to spend the summer half building it, half sailing last year's boat, which, they might have beat up by now, and then experiencing a new boat, and you'd spend all winter designing it. There was a lot of beer involved. And it was just the culture. Great. And I was the only kid. Yeah. Because none of my parents' friends had kids yet. So I basically grew up almost as an adult with these people. They never treated me like a kid. I was just another person. Basically, when they need someone small to go down into the bilge, and hey, Peter, get down there, and
I do understand.
Here's a drill. I know. Will you do anything for that, right? And to me, it really cemented that passion for building. My father made and built stuff. He worked always in an engineering sense, and I just carried on making and building stuff. As you may know, if you've been following the show for a while, I designed and built custom homes for a while. Did that in Nova Scotia, making and building, and boats, endless boats. I could just go on, but you have to ask me another question.
Well, and that woodworking obviously translated to wood boats very well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That works out pretty well.
But you didn't come out to Victoria until
2014.
2014.
Yeah.
And was there a period where you were not knee deep in boats? So
the child raising years.
Oh,
trying to start a viable business and build viable life for your family to move forward. Mm-hmm. Exactly. My wife and I, when my first child came along, we moved from Montreal down to Nova Scotia to live by the sea and do a lot of boating. To Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. I don't know if you ever heard it, but it's
I want to go.
Very, very it is the Port Townsend of Canada. Nice. Very boat oriented. The racing schooner Blue Nose is from there. It's on our dime.
Okay,
it was built there. It lives there today. Well,
wow.
It doesn't. The third generation of it does anyway. But life sort of got in the way and we didn't do that much boating. I planned to, it just didn't necessarily work out that well. But I did build a lot of really nice custom homes. So I spent a lot of time woodworking. So I could say my total move forward was still moving forward because I was honing that skill. And when the opportunity came along, and that opportunity, as opportunities sometimes happen, came as a result of a divorce. And I just said, I was building something that I don't have anymore, so I don't need any of it. So I literally, as maybe you've seen in one of the episodes, just packed it up, got in that Land Rover and started driving around.
All the way across the country.
Well, actually, first down, the classic thing for a Nova Scotian is to get warm. Right? So you head south. It's always head south, So I went down the coast. I was towing a big old Airstream and Florida, Louisiana, New Orleans. I mean, have you been? I mean,
yes,
right?
Oh, crazy.
I know it's crazy. And I end up on a beach in Texas and lived there for a while, ever so slightly too long, according to Homeland Security. Anyway, and but then what happened? And I guess what you're asking at when I arrived in Victoria, I'm running too long on all this stuff.
No,
you're not.
Not at all.
It's good. Anyway, I did that. By the time I was going to do that 2 years, because 6 months in, 6 months out. And when I say too long, I mean like a day, like not a big thing. Anyway, second time down, I was kind of running out of RV steam. Like, I don't know if you guys are big RV guys, and I thought that was going to be my life, traveling forever in an Airstream towed by an old Land Rover. And I don't know what I thought I was going to do. At that time, I was doing software development, and it was fine. I could do it remotely. Anyway, but there's this thing that I often say, and I'll say it here, is that, if you're on the go all the time in an RV, you're cool and you're hip and you're the traveler. You park somewhere for a week, you're an old guy living in an RV. You know what I mean? And I started to get that vibe, because I wasn't super wealthy, so I'm not staying in super nice places. I'm kind of stealthing here and there and everywhere. And it got kind of, I didn't feel great about it. So I said, I'm going to go to England and live on a boat. I have dual citizenship. I was born in London. Cool. But I had Geordie the dog, right? Couldn't get Geordie into England, not quickly anyway. So I had to juggle, and winter was coming, and I had lived in Victoria for 1 year when I was a kid, and it's warm in winter.
Oh, yeah.
So it met that first criteria, right? Got to go somewhere warm. I don't want to do snow and ice anymore. So, I roared across the country in December of 2014. Blizzard in the Rocky Mountains. I never should have made it through. If they'd pulled me over, no chains, it would have been the end. Goodness. By the time I slid down the mountain, the highway into Hope, into Vancouver, and the blossoms were out. Well, they weren't quite as the fall, but good story. Anyway, I just thought, okay, thank goodness. And I was going to stay, I don't know, a little while and get a boat and then keep going. I was going to get a sailboat and go.
Go where?
Around the world.
What do you do?
We get a sailboat. You just go.
Really go.
Yeah, exactly. And but I fell in love with monks. And
how did that happen?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I think originally I said I was going to go to England because I really like the culture of English boats. Now I'm talking old English boats. And I'm also going to refer back to those of you who are fans of the Arthur Ransom series, which I talked about a few minutes ago. 2 of the books are set in the Broads. Now, the Broads are a series of inland canals and lakes in semi-north, sort of mid-eastern Britain. And there's a style of wooden cruiser there that's very, what I call elegant. Think monk. Okay?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
What I was picturing.
Very simple, long, easy to push, single engine, efficient. I grew up in the era of big crisscross constellations with twin big blocks in them. And, that's just not something you can do in 2024. I can't anyway. So the prospect of a boat that could be pushed along at a reasonable speed at a gallon an hour sounded very exciting to me.
Oh, yeah.
So I come out to Victoria, and I'm kind of just enjoying it not being cold. And I'm living in an RV park that's associated with the marina. And there in the marina is this beautiful, and when I say beautiful, I mean an absolute wreck.
Right.
Very
but
nice
beautiful
lines.
To the,
exactly.
Yes.
Very nice lines. If you've seen the first episode where I bought a boat, that's her.
Yeah.
And I said, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What kind of boat is that? And someone said, oh, that's a monk. They're famous out here. I said, well, I want it. I want one just like that. And lo and behold, cut to the chase, that was Geordie. And it happened to be for sale for exactly $5,000 more than I should have spent on it. because wooden boats should be free and at that level pretty much, or $1 or whatever. But
Darren will agree with you.
Yeah,
right
it
now.
started. Yeah, come on. Anyway, I ran with that way
That's
too
great.
long.
No,
but
that's
you know,
good.
No, that's
how I got
super
to
interesting.
Victoria. That's how I got to Victoria.
So I grew up reading Horatio Hornblower.
Right.
That series.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that was before I knew I was into boats, but I loved that series, and it was the sense of adventure, which has carried on to into my interest in boats today. I love the idea of just setting sail, second start of the right on the morning.
Yeah.
Adventure.
But I also read a Canadian book that is now my favorite boating book. I can't remember her name, Curve of Time.
Oh,
And
yes,
Wiley
absolutely.
Blanchett.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's a beautiful book.
Fantastic story. And I didn't know about that until I got out here, and I read that. It was my inauguration.
I gift that to
cruise
everybody
around.
now.
Yeah, we have given that as a Christmas gift
Yeah,
to
exactly.
so many
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
But I understand the books getting you into that sense of
Right.
adventure, and that's what all these books did for me as well, as inspired. But that's a great origin story, I mean, man, and I, it totally makes sense because as we noticed in his videos, absolute passion for boats. He's another honorary boat geek for sure. And that makes sense that you've been around boats since you were a little kid. And wow, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you had that life so that we could enjoy the content
So
that you're creating today.
So am I.
And now you obviously have a taste for classics and vintage vehicles and so forth. So do I. I would attribute that to my dad. He had a 73 Corvette, and he always loved the older vehicles, and that's what he worked on, and the lines and the curves, right? So that's what translated easily to boats for me. As soon as I saw all these classic boats, to me, I'm like, these are beautiful boats. What happened, with modern boats? Because they just look shippy, or whatever is the term that we, I just appreciate the old look as well. And before I got the Matthews, I looked at a lot of Monks. They are beautiful boats.
They really are. Yeah.
So
I mean,
lucky
and the
you that you
Matthews
get to
is a
work on
classic,
three.
and it's a custom too. So it's a very, very beautiful boat. But yeah, no, the Monks. It's funny. We get on the Coho this morning, the ferry, which is the ferry that brought me here from Canada, and it was built in '59, and the main cabin windows on the side have the exact same rhythm and curve as
neat.
those old Monks.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I just look up and I say, it's like a great big.
Yeah.
And it docks 200 yards from our boat. Like
really? You're
we
right
woke
there.
up 200 yards from where the Coho left this morning.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
so cool.
That's-
And you posted a video or something, maybe it was a short. You don't do a lot of shorts. You have one in there, which is great because that means all your content is, for the most part, full length.
I don't understand shorts.
Yeah, I know.
We're starting to.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you about that.
Okay, I do. Yeah.
Painful necessity. But you're I totally lost track. What was I saying?
Something about the ferry in
Oh, ferries.
Victoria.
Yeah.
Okay. You posted some content about how much you love ferries. And,
Yeah.
and Darren and I are the same way. Again, I think that's when you just love boats so much, anything that's floating
Exactly.
that could get you from here to there.
Sure.
But we really like the BC ferries compared to the.
Yeah.
No knock. I mean, I understand.
The Washington State ferries are great.
Yes.
Right.
They're just not as pretty.
What was
Really?
the ferry that they just brought back to life for the Polsbo event?
The Carlisle.
It was an
3.
old classic.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an
Yeah.
old one.
Yeah.
And I thought of you
Really? Okay.
because
Oh.
of your love of ferries too,
Right.
and boats.
Right.
But anyway,
Right.
we got to get you hooked up with Polsbo.
Yeah, okay. Well,
we're going to
no,
introduce
I-
you to the whole town of Polsbo.
More boating communities.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in for that.
It's going to be
and-
another
and
destination.
we were talking before we started about, the love of boats, and it's also the community. It's the people.
Oh,
I mean, all the
absolutely.
people we meet.
Yep.
Just walking down the docks,
Yep.
you end up talking to somebody for 3 hours,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And so many boat owners are animal lovers and dog lovers. So so I told you before we started recording,
Yeah.
when I first found your channel, I immediately recognized two things: your love of boats and your love of dogs, which immediately puts you on my "this is a great person" list. Yeah.
All
So you've had some, some great dogs in your life, and I
Yeah.
can see how much you get attached to even your friends' dogs and
Yep.
and pets all around you. And I always wanted to say condolences for
Yeah.
Geordie.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I think it's awesome that you're
Yeah.
carrying on, the channel in his name, and you do your intros and respect that. And I can just see your love of dogs.
Mhm.
Andrea's new dog, or Andrea's dog, and then you have Finn as well, which is
again,
Zephyr's. So I love that aspect, very happy to finally have you on the show again.
Well, thank you very much.
Speaking of a revolving list of characters, you have some people that show up regularly on your shows. But what I was discussing with Darren earlier is another thing that's really, I think, sets you apart and makes your channel really cool is how involved you are with your viewers. You are so engaged with your community, and they are so engaged with you, whether that's supporting somebody living aboard POM for a few days or projects that you're working on or whatever. That is gold to have a community like you have. And I just really respect that. I respect your engagement with your community. I think it's a great thing that you've been able to build this, and obviously they're appreciating it as much as I am, and being able to live vicariously through you. Most of your content, you can tell me if I'm wrong, is for the most part projects, right? Like you're doing specific projects. So obviously all your viewers just love doing this with you, whether they're learning, whether they're reliving stuff that they did, or get to just, like me, I'll never be able to do that stuff because I just don't have the time to learn
say
it.
That.
Well,
don't say
I
that.
never say never, but
because I think I can build sliding cabinet doors now.
Now I feel like I could.
I can put the hinges in on the. Yeah, I could do that.
So do you know if you are educating people like within your communications with your community?
Yeah, I think I am. I mean, I get a lot of comments back saying I never would have tried something.
Right.
And that's what I love to hear the most, because I really believe in the culture of trying. Just take a risk and go out and do something that you didn't think you could do. Because that does a couple of things for you. First, it's wonderful for self-confidence. It's wonderful for you just expansion, because once you've learned to do something, it's opened up another whole view on a community perhaps, or just something that you learned about yourself, And then to go with that, we have to live in a society where things are repairable.
Yes.
Or can be made, and we're moving on to I'm not going to pull my phone out of my pocket, but
everything has 3 years shelf life, and then it dies.
You take I drive a 62-year-old Land Rover, which can be perpetually repaired. The boats can be perpetually repaired if there's wood. I really think I love that culture, because not only is it I think ethically and environmentally responsible, I think it's what we need as a community. And if we don't pass on skills to our children or our friends or people that we don't even know across the internet, then we're not meshed anymore. If we're all sitting, walking down the street, thumbing, swiping, that's not a community. That's all consuming. We're not giving anything. So that's what I really like about it. So to answer your question more fully, because I wanted to go off on that other tangent there.
I liked it.
Yes. Lots of people are very kind and say, I learned how to do that. I did it a little bit differently because of the way you do it. I never thought of holding it that way or whatever. So that makes me feel good, because it means that, whatever it is I'm doing, other people are enriched by it. And that nothing makes you feel better than that.
That's
you
true.
guys are doing that. People are enriched by your show, right? So and that was a totally secondary thing. I didn't expect that part. I thought, people just want to watch sanding. I started watching Mads of Sail Life. I don't know if you know the show, but anyway. And I said, wow, if he gets paid to sand, I'm going to try.
And the amazing thing is that you built it and they came. You have a really solid, obviously, community that's supporting you. And
the projects, though, how many of them are something that you're doing for the first time?
A lot.
I mean, you're teaching yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is, that's phenomenal.
Well,
to put yourself out there, I'm going to show you that I'm going to do this.
Right.
And then you
hopefully
do
it
it.
works.
Well, that's a great thing, is that
work.
You're self-effacing and you don't have an ego, which is so important to me in terms of teaching people. And like, I can watch it and not feel like I have no skills. You know,
Right.
like I can actually watch your videos and feel like I could learn this.
Yeah, you
and
can
I
do it.
love when you discover, or you either discover you've made a mistake, or you should have done something differently, or even your community calls you out
Sure.
and you say
Yeah.
you called me out
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you were right. Just for
Yeah.
example, like the fly bridge that you're
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And-
Well, it gets worse this week.
But again, it's just such an approachable channel and so educational and entertaining. Again, just wonderful work.
Well, I think my favorite part, though, when you tackle a project,
Yeah.
whether it's the first time you're doing that particular type of project, or it's something you've done before, and you're finished, you love it.
Yeah, you
I
have
mean,
the
you're
pride.
like, wow,
I
that
usually do.
turned out really great,
Yeah.
and just the surprise sometimes. I
Turned out better than I thought.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
I can relate. There are so many things I've done on this boat
Yeah.
where I've never done this before, but
Right.
I went to YouTube University and
Sure.
watched 5 guys do it,
Yeah.
and so I averaged everything out, and then I did it, and wow,
That worked.
I actually did that.
Exactly. There you go.
It's
so
a
see,
wonderful
you can
feeling
do
of
anything you want to do.
accomplishment.
Likewise.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think a very important part that you touched on is that you are helping people learn those skills, because I very much feel like we're on a path to future generations not having some basic skills.
You got a couple hours?
Yeah, I know. We both have kids,
Yeah.
and so you know, we are very aware of, you know, what the youth are being taught, and
Sure.
and the you know, just like you said, everybody's on their cell phones, and that's kind of like people are becoming more and more comfortable just being in their homes on their devices,
Sure.
and not being outdoors, building, learning, you know, establishing basic skills.
Yeah.
You know, I blew it growing up in that I didn't establish some of those basic skills. Like I said, master of none, or jack of no trades, master of none. That's basically where I'm at. But I appreciate it. And so I think it's amazing to have those resources out there for people like Damien and other young people to be the future of shipbuilding and shipwrights. And it's exciting.
Right. Right.
So thank you for being another educational source out there
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very
for
much.
for the world.
Oh, I feel good about that.
Do you have do you ever check out your metrics and see where your viewers are coming from?
I do now and then. Yeah. I'm not sure I understand them properly. I watch videos about how to understand your metrics, you know, and I go, okay, well, let me have a look. I can figure out where they're from. If that's your question, US obviously is number one by a long shot, followed by the UK. Before Canada, and then Australia and Canada kind of flip back and forth for third place, and then
they
a
have-
lot of Scandinavia.
Yeah.
They got a lot of wooden boats up there.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
and they love their
them.
boats.
and they love them.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Australia, they're called timber boats.
Right, exactly.
That's really interesting, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. And I don't know enough about Australia to go like, is it all coastal? Like, are there any inland waterways in Australia?
I don't think so.
The-
not
not much.
Not navigable.
Yeah, I know
I
something
think.
like there's the Hobart River. Now I'm really sounding.
There's some rivers you can go,
Yeah.
but it's not. They're not going to have like the what are they? The channels in UK or whatever. The,
right,
canals.
or the
Canals.
beautiful inside passage that we enjoy here in you know
Yes.
on the west coast. But
This
anyway.
is so unique.
Oh my gosh, it's great for wooden boats too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is perfect.
Absolutely.
It is paradise up here for.
Okay,
wooden
I'm
boats.
going to get a wooden boat.
Oh, good man, good man. And you
I
should hang on to
will.
yours.
I know.
Come on now.
I got to learn your skills, so I just got to keep watching your
Just got
channel.
to keep watching the show. Just tackle
So
stuff.
when you started this channel in 2013,
Yeah.
What did you have any idea? This was back when you had your Land Rover, you had
Yeah.
your Airstream, which you still have both.
No.
No,
Just
that's a different Land Rover. Or
That's I have the Land Rover. Sorry,
Right,
I don't
not
have
the
the Airstream.
okay. So what did you? Were you just like, hey, this YouTube is an interesting thing. I think I'm going to create. Like, what was in your mind?
Well, kind of, because what I was also doing was leaving where I'd lived and raised my family. So, for instance, my 2 young daughters who were off in university weren't coming with me, and I wasn't going to live next door to them anymore. So I thought for sure this is one way to sort of connect and keep them up to date, keep old friends up to date,
okay.
whatever. I wasn't a neophyte to YouTube. I actually did a bunch of Land Rover stuff on YouTube in before, like the building of this truck and some other road trips and stuff. It all started out with a series a long time ago where we built a Land Rover in one day out of spare parts. It was fun. Yeah, called 88 in a day. 88
Wow.
to the wheelbase. Anyway, so I'd been YouTubing for a while, so I had no trouble just doing it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not quite sure when the show started because you say 2013 and it's true, but what I did, I actually shot.
That's just when your channel was established.
So in your
Yeah.
description it says you started in 2013, but your first video was 7 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Because what I was shooting, but didn't know if I was really going to do do this.
Yeah.
So through my sort of second year in the US and coming out here and this and that, I shot, but I didn't really know what I was going to do next. So I wasn't actually publishing. So for the first, 20, 30, 50 episodes, I was catching up.
Yeah.
And I can't remember when I caught up, but around the time I bought the boat, I guess.
Yeah. Instantly, you had the charisma and the ability to, like your very first intro, is as good as your intros that you're doing today. And I don't mean that as
In other words,
you're not
I'm not
improving.
really
No, I
good.
knew you were going to say that. That's not what I mean at all.
I know what you mean. I'm sorry, but thank you. Yeah, I get it. It's funny,
You're natural on
Andrea said to
camera,
me
I
this
think.
morning, we were on the bow of the coho, and I grabbed the GoPro, and I say, "Oh, we're gonna do an intro." And she says, "How do you do that?" I said, "I don't know.
Is this a switch?
I guess so.
flip?
Yeah. I honestly, I don't know, and it's one of those things that you don't know that other people don't have.
Yeah.
So. That's why I didn't really understand it. Like I've tried to encourage people to YouTube, and they've actually taken it fairly seriously. They said, "Okay, I'm going to,"
Right.
and then they just can't. And I feel bad that it didn't work for them, but I guess it's just
It is
Not
a
everybody can do it.
skill.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Or a phenomenon or something.
We watch a lot of
Yeah.
YouTube channels.
Yeah.
I've been involved with, I started my YouTube channel in 2006,
Right.
a long time ago, and all in the marine world. So I've been on the periphery and then watching and so forth. And there's this incredible range of quality. Okay, so what you've got going is not just quality in terms of using your camera, like we were talking about. You can walk and in this one smooth move, end up right where you are and continue talking. That's
a skill.
something you can't really.
GoPro gets a lot of credit for that.
Well, but you can't
But yeah.
teach a lot of that.
I've
And
seen
so-
GoPro footage by people that don't have those
exactly.
skills.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Fair enough.
But it's it comes down to, for us, as we're starting to see, it comes down to personality. And you have a personality that is transferred through the camera, through your editing, and it doesn't change. So you're natural at it.
Okay.
And I think the bottom line is when you watch Travels with Geordie, people can try to take apart the quality or the mechanics and the editing and the camera, whatever.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't even like watching movies with me sometimes. But the bottom line is when you watch your videos, the viewer is smiling.
Yeah.
And it's it's transferring from you to the viewer, and it's an emotional response. Yeah, we can learn how to mortise something in the wood, but at the same time, it's an emotional connection. I mean, you run into people probably that you've never met that feel like they know you.
Sure. Yeah. No. Quite a lot.
And
yeah.
that's a privilege in a way. It can also be.
No, it's a privilege. It's certainly at the point where it's manageable. So it's there's no. It is nice that people really feel connected with me, and when we meet them, they're super kind and they're super. Just shake your hand. Didn't want to keep it too long, but nice to say hi. I feel like I know you. So yeah, no, that is a nice thing. And if you say, like, you actually touched me just there, you're saying that people smile when they watch your show. Well, that's I can't think of anything more I'd like to do than that. That done.
That was me.
I'm done. My work here is done.
Every time I feel your passion, well, it could be for boats or dogs.
Right.
It is for both. Whenever I feel it. Like
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that sits there smiling. When I can tell you are genuinely happy, which you are, I've never seen you fake it. That totally translates to me. And so I think you nailed it on the head.
Yeah.
That people that enjoy your channel, it's an emotional attachment and very much a personal thing. I do feel like I know you. Obviously I met you today, but I feel like I've known you for a very long time.
And it's nice that
Super.
you're able to, not be standoffish. I mean, I think of your co-countryman.
Right.
He was a famous rock and roll drummer who died a few years ago, and he had a famous line. He says, "I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend."
Oh.
And
Are we talking about Pert?
yeah, Neil Peart,
Yep.
Rush. So,
I say it American Pert.
Peart, yeah,
Peart.
Peart.
Oh man, I grew up with those boys.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, they were Toronto.
Yeah.
You were in
Montreal, but
Could you repeat
But you're
this quote one more time? I just need to take it
I
in.
can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend.
Yeah.
Because he had a real tough time with
Yeah.
fame
Yeah, he did.
and celebrity.
Yeah.
So Nice that you're able to get right down in the trenches with your fans.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to say the inverse of that, I would not say I was pretending they were a long-awaited friend. I'm saying I'm finally meeting someone who I would consider a friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's no pretending in it, even if it works out. But yeah, I know it's very interesting. Yeah.
Boats.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about boats.
Oh, let's.
So I did a little bit of digging because now I've watched your channel for a long time, but as I don't watch every episode because I just am overwhelmed with,
No, I'm hurt.
Yeah, I know. I have not watched 466,
Right.
but I have watched a few dozen at least. But there was always an element of confusion for me in terms of I see this monk,
Yeah.
but that monk doesn't look like the monk that I was watching in the last.
Right. Or in the intro or in the outro.
So
Can you help Darren out?
Okay, so here, let's do
What
the
boats are
timeline.
what?
Let's do the timeline.
the timeline, that's what I was
Right,
looking
exactly.
for.
Okay, so arrived, I think I mentioned a little earlier, bought a wooden boat, a wreck of an old wooden boat. That is the boat now known as MV Geordie. It was called Kiora at the time, which I believe is Kiwi for how you doing or good
Nice.
friend or
Oh,
something
cool.
like that.
Right.
It was a nice name, but it didn't suit me. It didn't do
Sure.
anything for me. And I knew I would lose Geordie someday.
Yeah.
And because I just felt I wanted to always be traveling with Geordie. So that's MV Geordie. And so I lived on that for about a year. And then I sold my Airstream. And I sold my Airstream on Craigslist and met a woman through Craigslist. That woman you all know as Lady Zephyrus.
Yeah.
She bought my Airstream. And I delivered the Airstream to her and we started talking a little bit and, we kind of got along a little bit. And so we were a couple for a brief period and a very happy period. And what we found that we both loved was wooden boats. So she said, I want one of these. I don't want the Airstream. But you've converted me, So find me a wooden boat. Well, the very first wooden boat I looked at, actually, kind of a fib on my previous story, was not Geordie, was a boat at that time called Andromeda.
Oh, wow.
Owned by a very interesting young shipwright. His name is Scott Dressler. He appears a few times later in the series. The boat had a very, very nasty horizontal turbo Perkins 6 and it was leaking a lot of oil and I couldn't stand up in the house. So I dismissed it. But Lady Zephyrus is shorter than me and I'm getting good at swapping engines. So I said, why don't we get you this boat? You'll be fine with this boat. So I set her up with that boat and she absolutely loves it. We've done a lot of work to it. If you've been following along, swapped another engine into it, done a lot of work to it.
And what year are these boats?
Now it's really neat. Geordie's 53, Edwin Monk, built in Nanaimo in 53. Zephyrus is 54, built in Nanaimo.
Whoa.
It's 8 registry numbers apart.
No way.
Wow.
So
That's
federal
so
registry,
cool.
like
That
in
is so
all of the
cool.
country,
Yeah.
it was only 8 boats later registered. Not built in the same yard, but
Right.
I swear by some of the same shipwrights.
Sure.
Because I've been in the belly of both boats. I see techniques, that's a dead giveaway from a personal
Right.
way of working. So that's Zephyrus.
Okay.
Are they
was
both
renamed Zephyrus. Sorry?
38s?
No, Geordie is it's actually a 40, and I didn't know that until the marina came and measured it. Now I wasn't fibbing, really, I wasn't.
Yeah.
And if I can only take a slight deviation, it's because at that time, from what I understand, and someone on your show will correct me, length of a boat at that time was from the stem to the rudder post. Very strange.
Yeah,
If
back
that's
in the-
correct, whatever. So Geordie is registered as a 38, but it is actually physically 40 feet long plus 2 feet for the swim. Because I know they can.
Yep.
Okay, Geordie's a 40. Zephyrus is indeed a 36. So those 4 feet make a huge difference. Like
Including headroom, right? Because everything's
yeah.
shrinking. Yeah.
they're not just. It's not just a bigger boat. It's really quite different design. You don't see it right away, but it is. It's amazing what those 4 feet do. You know, because in width and in depth and everything, Geordie's a much bigger boat. But Zephyrus was in better shape to start with, significantly better, and a lot of work had been done by the shipwright. Now you will notice that Zephyrus has white cabin sides. It is a mahogany boat. It was originally bright, but it had too many repairs to be really justified to stay bright. So the previous owner had painted it, and honestly, that's the way it looks now. It's beautiful. We love it, and it's just fine. And it does mean subsequent major repairs can be done without.
Yeah.
Fix that up and slap some more paint on there.
Yep. That'll cover it up.
You may know that I am looking to actually redo the entire cabin sides on Geordie, which is a massive job because I have the same problem. When I bought Geordie, it was all painted too, but I wanted to bring it back. But as soon as I took the paint off, it's like, oh.
That's why.
And ever since I've been kind of nursing it along, thinking I could patch, and it's time to take it. Anyway, I'm too many deviations. We'll move on. The next boat is Poem, which is also an Edmund Mung.
Larry.
Lloyd.
I meant
actually,
Lloyd.
Yeah, I know. Friend of mine from Nova Scotia came out and said, listen, I'm loving this life. I'm going to come out and live this life too. I'm going to buy a wooden boat and we're going to do it. So we found him a really sweet little wooden boat. It was in Everett at the time.
Nice.
American boat built in Seattle, 1937. Yeah. It's a pre-war boat.
Wow.
And it's by far the best condition of the three.
And what size?
It's 27 feet.
27.
7 feet is little Poem. Yeah. Wow. And it's light. It's like a little wooden motorboat. When you're driving it around, like it kind of leans when you turn, and you approach a dock and just kind of go. It's a sweetie. It was down here at the festival last year, and it'll be coming back this year.
Okay. Oh, good.
Andrea and I are living aboard it right now in Victoria.
That's the one that you're
That's
living.
the one we're living aboard.
That's why I was getting confused.
I know. Yeah, exactly. So, and just make all those things confusing. The closing sequence of the show is Geordie walking across a swim grid. But it was such a great, my dog, Geordie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Such a great shot. I needed to use it. However, the boat is Zephyrus.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter. It's all part of the history of what that went on. Yeah, exactly. And it's also interesting that you mentioned the intro. I'm always trying to think of how maybe I have to revamp this intro a little bit. So I keep thinking I'll do that, and I
you don't though. Your intro's great. Your intro, once you get, once you've watched a few episodes, you want that intro. I don't know.
People say that. People say they
I know
sing
you
along
want
with me.
You keep saying you want to. I'm going to do a new one, but why?
Exactly.
Why fix something that's not broken?
I don't know exactly.
You're already fixing enough things with boats.
Yeah,
so you have this fleet of 3 monks. Plus, you said you have a 4th.
Have you ever heard of a little Peterborough? It's a Canadian version. In the 40s and 50s, canoe companies realized they were missing out on a massive market, and that was the emerging interest in little speedboats for families, up-and-coming families. Okay. So canoe companies, both in Canada and the U.S., and I forget the name of the one that built almost the same thing in the U.S., started building canoe-styled little wooden runabouts, 14 feet, 16 feet, little foredeck on them, little plexiglass curved windshield, and they throw like a 25 horse on the back.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Oh, and they're adorable.
So you're saying it looks like a canoe?
Well, it's built like a canoe, so it's small little ribs and strip planked and cedar.
Wow.
Very light. 2 people can carry it around, which is why I can jump up on a plane pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I owned one in Nova Scotia. In fact, it was one of the few boats, you were asking me if I was doing any boating there, that I actually bought to take my family boating. Didn't do it very much. But anyway, and Lady Zephyrus grew up in Ontario, also grew up with one of these in Lake Country, north of Toronto. Mm-hmm. And when this thing popped up, she just said, I got to buy this and do something with it.
Yeah.
Well, what we'll do with it, I'm not quite sure yet. There's many people out there that say, what are you thinking? But anyway, it's just a sweet little runabout.
Yeah.
That's the story on that one.
So how are you decide? Okay. So you obviously, Zephyrus is her boat.
Yes.
And and she cruises with you or has cruised with you quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that means you now have Poem and Geordie.
Yeah.
How are you determining which one you're living on and why? And
if you have an idea, we're all ears. Really? Could you just please? I'm currently working on this massive spreadsheet trying to figure out what boat will be where.
Yeah. And what you're doing
what
with
I'm doing to it, and is there any content?
Yeah.
And I got to go east and see my daughter. Anyway, so that is a good question. If I back up a year, it was super easy. I just gotten Poem.
Yeah.
Lady Zephyrus had just bought the shed.
Right.
She bought the shed because she's going to have that wooden boat for as long as she possibly can, but she knows I'm eventually going to leave. So she wanted to make sure there was a place that she could hire a shipwright to work on the boat when that was necessary. You know what I mean? She'd just stay in somewhere.
Which is in Genoa Bay.
Which is in Genoa Bay, which is just about an hour and a half north of
What a great workspace that is.
It is a great workspace.
Yeah.
So then and she says, and I'll rent it to you for when you need it. And I just got Poem. So I thought, okay. I had the privilege of staying right downtown Victoria on Geordie at the Empress. So I started to commute. So I'd go up three days a week and work on Poem in the shed. That was a great life. I could keep content going. I could sort of come home for the weekend, which was really nice because for years and years I worked inside Geordie with sawdust everywhere, like table saws inside. And so I'd shake out my bedspread at night just to crawl into,
I can
you know,
only
really,
imagine,
it
yeah.
was
Yeah.
rough. It
Yeah.
was rough. And I think I want to move away from that, you know. And so that worked out great. Poem came along quite a ways. So the idea was to flip this year, live aboard Poem downtown and work on Geordie in the shed. The main chunk of that work was new cabin sides. Without drawing out too far, I just couldn't get good wood.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm here, by the way, listeners. I'm buying fabulous wood in a local business here, which should I name?
Eden Saw.
Eden
I think
is
a lot of the wood
the
boat
Mecca.
people
Yeah.
on the West Coast.
Yeah, exactly. Know
they
that. So I'm very excited to pick up a big chunk of mahogany tomorrow. Anyway, but that didn't happen. So, but I'm tied up with some other work with the boat, new cabin top, fiberglass, stuff like that. Ooh, I hate fiberglass work. But anyway,
We ought to put Matt in
yeah.
touch with.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, just to try and answer your question, at the marina in Victoria where we are, it's an 8-month winter program. They kick us out May 1st.
Right.
Which in theory is great because you're there for 8 months and then you go cruising for 4 months, rinse and repeat. Unless you have too many boats and, you know, too many responsibilities and stuff like that. So honestly, it's juggle one boat up.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
Zephyrus is going for a haul out for 2 weeks. The Poem is going into the shed for 2 weeks. Geordie is coming down. We've taken a new slip in downtown Victoria at Fisherman's Wharf where that boat will be stored because you also have to, these boats have to be kept somewhere and it's getting harder and harder to find moorage. Yeah. And I'm very lucky to have two slips in Victoria. 3 actually, because Poem is going to go on yet another slip in Victoria for a while. So it's just a juggle.
Lucky.
Very, very lucky.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's also very expensive, you know, and it's just, and many people, your viewers might even say, why is he got all these boats? And it's true. Poem was a gift I should have just sold the next day. But
obviously Lloyd didn't want to see that happen.
He didn't want to see that happen, but
Yeah.
he said to me, Peter, if that's what you want to do, do it. You know what I mean? He wanted to support the show. You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know what Poem's long-term plan will be, but I'm keeping it.
Yeah.
We're keeping it.
Yeah.
You know, Andrea and I are keeping it. She loves the boat, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, how many women are going to be thrilled to live on a 27-foot boat?
Yeah.
You know, with a porta potty.
Yeah.
That's going to change soon. Stay tuned.
Good for you.
So anyway, yeah, it's just a constant juggle. I think part of your question was cruising. I will take Lady Zephyrus cruising for 2 weeks this summer. She's not comfortable operating the boat full on. If you're listening.
Not yet.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to actually
Totally
cruise the San
understandable.
Juans this year.
Yeah.
We're going to cruise the San Juans.
Yay.
And further to that, she's going to bring her boat to the festival.
Oh, cool.
So we'll convoy down together.
We're going to see you at the festival
Both,
then.
yeah, Zephyrus and Poem will be at the festival this year.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
So working towards helping her be a little more autonomous with the boat, I've got it physically fixed up enough that I'm not going to have to do much more to it. We're best friends. We'll be best friends for the rest of our life.
Great.
We had dinner with her last night. We're going to, you know, so that works out really, really well. The two boats are side by side in Victoria.
That's awesome.
But it does mean she doesn't get to cruise as much as she'd like to. But you know, hopefully, she'll be able to feel more comfortable with that.
Hey,
And then,
I've had a boat for 3 years. I'm uncomfortable. Every time I want to go out, I'm like, Darren, you want to go? You want to go out with me? You know, because I get nervous about driving an old wood boat myself.
Well, it's funny you say that. You know, that's part of some upcoming content, and I hear that so much. It's just, how are you so comfortable driving the boat? So, well, I've driven a lot of boats for a long time, but at the same time, it's not as terrifying as you think. You know, so maybe a little more docking, piloting, mooring kind of episodes coming for that, because people have really, a subset of people have really appreciated that.
Well, obviously, that's once I'm out, I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
So,
well, that's the same as
when you're
Lady Zephyrus,
surrounded by millions of dollars of boat.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, my friend Bob Bitchin, he started Latitudes and Attitudes magazine, 75,000 miles.
Wow.
And even he would say, every time I go to leave, I get those butterflies.
Yeah.
And he said, if you don't, then you become too complacent.
Good point.
So
very good.
it's okay to, I mean, you got to be aware of everything when you're moving your boat in and out. So, and my favorite boating adage of all time, always approach the dock at the speed you wish to hit it.
That you're willing to hit it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Very
Which I
good.
live by. I am so slow when I.
No. The only people who are really annoyed with that is fuel dock operators.
Yeah.
For crying out
Come
loud,
on,
come on.
Yeah. For sure.
Well, I can picture you on camera, not teaching, but just conveying your confidence in handling your boat and transferring that to the viewer, I think you'll be very good at it.
Yeah, I think, and again, it's sort of the same thing. It's like, just try, just do, you know. I know a lot of people that come into marinas, they won't come in unless there's line handlers waiting on the dock.
Yeah.
They won't leave, and these are boats with twin screws and thrusters. So I mean, you know, we have the hardest boats possible to drive. One
That's right.
screw, no thruster, long, lots of windage. But even then, there's just tricks springing off, and you know, there's all kinds of techniques, and they're all bulletproof. It's you know, it's not a wing and a prayer. If you pay attention, you can manage these boats in tough conditions.
You have to be, as a boat owner, proactive to seek that kind of instruction and help, though. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there's people, including yourself, that give plenty of instruction. And if you put the time in.
And you sell yourself short, because I have been both on the dock and in the boat with you, and you bring the boat in just fine. You back it out just fine. So you're doing better than you thought, or that you
I've
think
had
you're
better
doing.
good instructors. But yeah, so now you said Lady Zephyrus knows that you won't be around forever.
Right.
I mean, we're all dying, but that's not what you're talking about, right?
No. Remember, some ambitious cruising someday.
That's
right.
You know, which is become Leo's 2 years hence, right? We'll be finished Tally Ho in 2 years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, I have big plans. You've probably seen it at some point. I'll reiterate it slightly for your listeners.
Please do.
I love the Pacific Northwest. It's beautiful here, but I am just itchy to cruise mostly inland and coastal waters of the world. I'm not one of these offshore sailors. I'm not crossing the Pacific for 21 days is not my thing. So I'm going to take a boat or two. Does radio have eyebrows? Oh no, this is live as well. That's right, exactly.
All the eyebrows you want.
Trucked across from Vancouver to Thunder Bay, which is the westernmost port in the Canadian Great Lakes.
Yep.
Down to Chicago, which is the headwaters of the Mississippi, down the Mississippi.
The Great
New
Loop.
Orleans, the Great Loop.
Oh, that is my...
Yeah, we would love to do that.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And I mean, in all the great cities of America, I mean, I just, you know, I love the places it goes, because I'm an urban person.
Yeah.
Desolation Sound.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Right.
But if I can't get to a pub every second night,
You don't want to live there.
I start to get a little twitchy, you know. So down Florida, up the intercoastal Manhattan. I mean, come on, cruising into
Dude,
Manhattan.
that is my wife knows that is when I retire, we're heading for the Great Loop.
Yeah,
I want to do that so bad.
Okay, so do that a couple of times, and then throw your boat on a freighter and
Across the
Atlantic.
pond.
Exactly.
There you go.
And then, so one or both boats will end up in Europe.
Wow.
And
I
it'll
love
be the
this.
French canals, the Dutch canals, into the down through the bottom of France. You pop out just east, just west of Italy, along the coast. I mean, you know, Portofino, you know, not bad. Down around, or the other way, cross to the North Sea to Amsterdam. In through to Berlin, and you're in the Danube.
Yeah.
Follow the Danube down to the Black Sea. The north coast for the last little bit is the Ukraine, so maybe not next year, but
we'll see.
anyway, and which that alone would be extraordinary. Think of the cities
Of
you
course.
go
Oh my
through.
God. All of it
And then-
sounds extraordinary.
Yeah, and then back through Greece and Croatia, and I mean, and
Peter,
then you keep doing that to the rest of your life. Come
I
on, let's
cannot
go.
wait for you to do this, and I would really appreciate it if you would establish a blueprint for me so that I can then follow in your footsteps and show my wife, because that's what she wants to do. She
Sure.
wants to, I mean, I didn't even think of
Right.
like shipping our boat or whatever boat we have at the time across the ocean and,
Right.
and then using it over there.
Right.
I want to see Geordie or Poem,
And
whoever.
the big
over
question, though, is
Yeah.
will the YouTube channel
Right.
continue on these cruising adventures?
It will. It's Travels
Yay.
with Geordie.
Yes.
Right?
Good.
Now, here's the bottom
Awesome.
line. I do 2 cruising episodes a year, and they tank.
Yeah.
Oh,
My viewers want
just
to see
interesting.
sawdust.
Yeah.
They really, really do. So you touched on something
Well-
earlier that, you know, sometimes it's about the personality. I'd like to think that I, and now Andrea and I, can slowly merge the
Yep.
show into more of a lifestyle, living aboard cruising show. It's going to get even worse, because in there, we're also going to take off a big chunk of time and do some serious overlanding in the Land Rover.
I think you're going to find a new audience.
Yeah, that's it. Some will stick around. There's people who are watching me today because they watch the old Land Rover.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Well,
they know nothing about boats, but
Darren and I are both fans.
Right.
We would absolutely watch you continue your journeys.
Exactly.
So there's got to be a Venn diagram of overlapping.
Exactly. And whether or not that could keep us afloat, pun intended, or not, I don't know yet. That's a risk.
Think positive. It's going to.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are thinking of abandoning the channel, when you're still going to have to work on your boat. There will be some sawdust.
It's nonstop.
Yes.
That. And then there'll be yet another boat eventually. When I'm too old for all of that,
he's going to buy Iron Feather. So we've got it all. No.
Maybe in the meantime.
Maybe one of those Turkish wood motor sailors.
You're not that far off. An
those
English steel narrowboat.
Oh, there you go too.
For the English canals.
I just watched a UK boat show featuring the new canal boats, and I love canal boats too.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of going and cruising all the canals.
Yeah.
Also, something that I was trying to convince my wife to do at one point.
Oh,
let's move to England.
Just go for 2 weeks.
There's so many canals, and you can it just looks like so much fun.
Yeah. By the time you take that one swoop through that beautiful French canal, of which there's thousands, lined with weeping willows both sides, and as you come around the corner, there's a little village, and there's just baguette everywhere.
I'm sold, man.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. Well, that is super encouraging to hear that you have future plans for the channel, not just future plans for yourself, but you're going to share them with everybody.
Thank you.
And
keep us in the loop.
Okay, absolutely.
A great loop.
Yeah. The
great. Oh, that's
the great
well
Peter
done.
Loop.
Is exploration a big part of boating for you?
Absolutely. It really is. And
why is boating better than a truck and a trailer?
Because of the unknown.
Yes.
Because a truck and a trailer, you have a map, you have a highway, you have a distance, you know when you're going to get there, you've already booked your hotel if you're going to stay there, whatever. Boating, you're a little bit vulnerable. And that vulnerability makes my fingers tingle a little bit, It's
adventure.
Should we, you're always watching weather windows. Should we go out? Should we go out today? Especially coastal boating, where, we stick our nose out and say, oh, this wasn't a good idea, but let's go.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be a little lumpy, that plus who you're going to meet and what your experience is going to be. It's always different. Even a leg that you thought was going to be pretty dull will turn into something super interesting because someone will be walking down the dock with a banjo and you'll go, hey, you want to,
Absolutely.
Exactly. So and I got to say, I'm not dissing RVs at all. I'm sure plenty of your listeners are RVers. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's lots of fantastic, people sitting around campfires playing banjos.
Sure.
But somehow it works for me. And that when you leave the dock, there's no road. It's just, and you have a little bit more autonomy. You're more responsible for yourself. It is the investment you made in your skills, your fortitude, and your boat that's going to get you to the next place. That's different than calling CAA if something goes wrong. Oh, you call it AA, right?
Right.
No, but you're totally correct.
Yeah. And I just love that.
Well worded. That's what it's always been for me. It's that sense of the unknown, the sense of the adventure. Anything can happen. The freedom.
Just the change from one night to another in the same anchorage. When you park your RV, it's going to be the same every night. I mean, it might rain.
Right.
You might have weather, but you're not going to be rocking or you're not going to have the perfect. I mean, there's always something different.
Yeah.
Plus, there's just something about water for me. Like there's something about being on the water. Yeah. I'm in my happiest always when I'm near the ocean. Absolutely. It's very hard for me to live too far inland, even with lakes and rivers. I love the ocean. I love the sounds. I love the smell. I love the feeling. I love the air. And it's just that great unknown. And that, like I grew up on like Star Trek and Captain Kirk and Star Wars and the Millennium Falcon. And I always wanted just a vessel to explore. And that's what it became for me.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Oh, splendid.
That's good awesome. Life. Yeah, it is a great life. And so now you have developed your, and situated yourself here with just a wonderful life. You have
we were talking about that.
Yeah, you just, I mean, from our perspective,
Yeah.
you said, here's what I want to do. And whether it was intentional or not, or just planets aligned, you've been able to get yourself into this situation where you're living the life that you want to live.
Yeah.
And you're sharing it with people and you're educating people.
And inspiring
people. Yeah, absolutely. And so just kudos to you.
Well, thank you. I didn't see it coming, but I'm loving it. And I know how grateful and fortunate I am. And that's what the give back part. That's the, pay it forward.
Absolutely.
And I want to make sure that I continue to find ways to, invigorate and enlighten.
Keep people smiling.
Yeah, keep people smiling. Yeah.
We want to make sure that you continue doing that as well.
Thanks.
And Andrea, we're very happy that you are a part of his crew now.
Yay.
And we look forward to more content coming from both of you, and continued happiness and smiles on Travels with Geordie. So is there anything you would like to touch on before we wrap things up today?
Oh, yeah. Throw it back at me. Yeah.
I like your tangents. By the way, we don't have any limits on the
Keep going
time.
off on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is open-ended, man.
Yeah.
I have, I've talked about the things that I'm passionate about, and I'm grateful that the way you worded everything, it just came out. And that's, make things, try things, take risks. And I think taking risks is one of the greatest things you can encourage someone to do.
Yeah.
I encouraged my daughters to take risk. I encouraged young people that are in my life to take risks, because if you don't take that risk, and it's a classic thing. Yeah, you'll fail sometimes, but you'll do a little better next time. And that's just it. And the brain works. I think our brain sees things differently when we take risks. And we touched briefly on, future generations and skills and stuff like that. And, I'm passionate about that, trying to make sure that we can move something on. I actually was reviewing, I did a couple of songs. I did a couple of episodes out of songs.
God, Please sing No Show for us.
Whatever. Anyway, but I don't know what, I was trying to show someone one of them, and one of the lines, and it just came to me, it says, San, include your sons and daughters, because they'll thank you when they're older, and I just remembered that. I love being a father. I love being a father, and that ability, what a gift it is to be able to pass on knowledge. And I've done it literally to my two daughters and some other people, but now that I can do it through the show to a few more people, there's nothing like it, so let's hope there's opportunity moving forward for lots and lots of people to do stuff like this. And hey, the internet and YouTube just made that possible.
That's true.
So.
Well, Peter, I didn't think I could like you anymore, but now that I've met you in person, I do. So thank you for being here.
So we're going to close a little differently.
We are going to close a little differently.
We typically do.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll get into that in a moment.
All right.
Our different close.
Right.
So I've seen you at the Port Townsend Boat Festival.
Yes.
I've seen you at some other locales. Where can people find you if they want to find you in the real world? Like, do you allow people to approach you on the boat in Victoria? Do you rather meet them at events?
That's a very good question. I've had many people come and visit me. Most people will contact me in advance and say, I'm going to be in Victoria on Wednesday. Could I come by, say hi? And I always welcome that.
That's cool.
Unless somehow I've missed it. I will say, and I have to say it now and then, please, I live in a community with other people that live there.
Yeah.
Please don't come and bang on the gate and say, I want to see Peter. Because, and I've had to say that 2 or 3 times. I'm sorry to say it on your show, but it's an opportunity for me to say it.
Yeah.
I'm not super pop. I'm not Leo around the corner here with people coming by, but I do like to think that I'm not a burden to my community.
Yeah.
Okay, so to answer that, contact me. My email is in every episode at the bottom in the description. Easy to get a hold of. Always happy to meet some people. Obviously, the highest density way is to meet at a show. So definitely be at the Port Townsend show this year. Definitely be at the Victoria show this year. A couple of other shows in between, possibly. Spend some time in Vancouver over the summer in False Creek, just because it's a fantastic free place to hang out in a really urban tie-up to a pub. If you haven't been there, boys.
I haven't.
No, we almost did.
You gotta come.
I had the anchor permit and then weather.
Exactly.
And it changed everything.
Exactly.
Darn
Anyway,
it. We'll go again.
Yeah. It's just
We
good.
will.
And it's one of the few harbors in Canada anyway. You can just drop the hook and you're right in the middle of everything.
With a permit.
Well,
for us from the United States going up there, we're going to make sure we don't. Yeah,
okay, it's 2 weeks for free.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Well, it is free.
Yeah.
Permit's free.
The permit's free.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The mortgage is free. To drop the hook in the bay. Yeah, exactly. Lots of boats have been there a lot longer than 2 months.
Yeah.
Anyway, and
Cool.
again, very, very happy to meet people. Thanks for
Awesome.
asking me that.
Okay, so if you want to check out Travels with Geordie yourself, you can go to travelswithgeordie.com. You can go to YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, Travels with Geordie. Find them there. Lots of great content, pictures, just, what's going on in their lives and so forth. So please support. Yeah, absolutely worth it. He's on, I've subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications, do all that thing, thumbs up his videos. It's great content, and we've got to keep this content growing and available for all of us out there.
Yeah.
But now we are going to do a little bit of a different ending.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to have to cut and then come back to it, right?
And this is...
They won't know.
No,
they won't know.
Well,
you're not going to know.
We might be moving position.
Yes.
But,
I see.
So this is at the end of every episode of Travels with Geordie.
Mm-hmm.
You have the beer of the week.
Indeed.
And the word of the
Right.
week.
Exactly.
And
a T-shirt giveaway.
And a T-shirt giveaway.
Right.
So we're gonna kind of stop things down.
Yep.
We're gonna go to the fridge and we're gonna bring out a
We'll be right
couple
back.
of local beers, and we're gonna try that.
Excellent.
So now we have our beers.
And this
Blinked
is not
out of nowhere.
Blinked out of nowhere. Boom.
this is not. We're not going to call this the beer of the week because that's your tradition.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But
okay,
in
okay.
reference to and in honor of Travels with Geordie, this is the beer of the podcast
There we go.
Fabulous.
because we don't do weekly.
No,
Right.
not yet.
Right.
So what do we have?
Right.
The first one.
I'm seeing some beautiful tall boys there. Glass bottles are so rare in Canada now. It's lovely.
Port Townsend Brewing
Oh.
Company
Mm.
in the Port of Port Townsend Boat Haven.
Okay.
So next time you're at the Wooden Boat Festival,
Or maybe later this afternoon.
we'll give you a ride. Yeah. Anyway, so great stuff.
Right.
An IPA. Shall I pour?
Oh, please do.
When I heard that you wanted to do this or that you agreed to do it, that was just awesome. Because I've watched enough of these beer of the weeks.
Right.
I think it was your idea, Peter.
Well, I was.
Or
What I thought I'd do is have you guys on my beer of the week, which we're going to do,
We can do both.
shortly
Yeah.
after
Yes.
this. And so then I figured let's just figure some way around this. Well, this
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
5 o'clock somewhere. Well,
Cheers.
cheers you all. Cheers you all. Cheers you all.
I'll do the.
cheers,
Cheers, Andrea.
All right.
All right.
We love our Port Townsend Brewing.
Mm-hmm. Port Townsend.
Oh, we do indeed. Oh man, that is really nice.
It's even nicer fresh at the source.
It is.
So yeah,
And-
maybe
And
this
they have a
evening.
tasting room there?
Yes.
Oh, that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
you were
it's a-
alluding to.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Festival, come get me.
And
Excellent.
during the evenings in the summer, they have music out in the back in the yard. But
Well,
they do some good work.
That is absolutely beautiful. Lovely stuff. Thank you so much. So, I mean, you guys are going to have to run with this now. This is a
might be
thing,
a new-
right?
Okay, so
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
beer of the podcast. Now, again, not you want to go with the porter now or do our word?
We could do the word
Let's
of the
do our
podcast.
word.
Do you guys have a word of the podcast?
We have a word of the podcast.
Word of the podcast.
Okay.
And we had to think about this.
Okay.
Now this is Darren's word,
Okay.
and I'm going to learn about it as well.
The word of the podcast is multipotentialite. Multipotentialite. I got to say that again.
This is a
I've only
different
had
kind
two,
of
so-
word thing than I do. I do like happy.
Okay. Multipotentialite.
Okay.
I'm saying it correctly now.
Okay.
Multipotentialite, which is, of course, a form of the word multipotentiality.
Okay.
Just so you know, my suggestion for the word of the podcast was geek. So he went so far beyond me.
All right.
But then you would have stolen it from me because that's going to be my word of the week.
Multipotentiality.
Yeah. Okay.
It's an educational and psychological term referring to the ability of a person, particularly one of strong intellectual or artistic curiosity, to excel in multiple fields of endeavor.
I feel like you're
This
referencing
word-
somebody here.
This word was chosen carefully.
Yes.
Man, I'm going to have to
And,
get a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Kiss me. I'm multi-potential.
You're a multipotential.
I don't even know what the word is still. What is it?
Are you going to be able to write that down for me?
I know.
I'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Multipotentialite.
Well, you, sir, are a multi-potentialite. I hope that's a compliment.
I'm feeling more multi-potentiality than every minute.
With every
the
sip.
multipotentiality of the moment. Yeah.
All right, so let's finish our IPA, and then we're going to try the...
Oops, I already did.
Yep, the porter.
Okay.
Now, Darren said you're an IPA fan.
I am indeed.
Okay. I'm a porter and nut brown
Excellent.
fan.
Excellent.
So that's why we opted for a porter.
And I wanted to say to Lady Zephyrus,
Yes.
I'm a wheat beer fan.
Right.
All right.
As she is.
Yes.
As she is. Exactly. Now,
So
I
cheers to you.
was a stout fan for the longest time. I drank nothing but Guinness for a decade or two
Oh.
almost. Well, because I just practically lived in an Irish pub in Montreal. I grew up, And
Thank you, sir.
but I never really transferred that to porter. So I'm actually not very well knowledgeable in porter. So a little education will go.
Yeah,
with
Mr.
this.
Porter man.
I know nothing about porter. Is
Okay,
it just
so-
a dark beer? I mean, what?
It's a darker beer.
Right.
Yeah, it's not. It's between stout
Right.
and nut,
Right.
like the nut browns.
Right.
And it was originally brewed to keep the dock workers,
Right.
the porters,
I
happy.
see where you're going with that.
keep them. So
Right.
porters make us happy.
Right.
This makes us
Exactly.
happy.
Exactly.
Cheers again, guys.
Well, I'm going to wait a second
Okay.
till
Yeah.
the porter guy can have a sip with me.
Yeah.
There you go. All
Here's
right.
to keeping dock
Here's to
workers
keeping
happy.
dock workers happy. I like the sound of that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I like the history. I
yeah.
feel like the history of
Absolutely the best porter I ever had.
A little sweeter.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I feel like the history of beer and ale has a lot to do with sailing and boats.
Well, it's
It
the
almost always
It's the
does,
basis
right?
of
Yeah.
human civilization.
Isn't that what we ate back then? Like
No,
that was our
that's what-
food?
That's what we transitioned as a species from hunter gatherers to farmers because we needed to year round make sure we had the hops and the barley
Right.
and the malt. I mean,
Right.
it's why civilization began, is so we could make beer.
Well, cheers to that as well.
Wow, this is getting better and better. I got to use that.
I just made that up.
Oh,
so-
you podcasters, you have different rules.
All right. Well, that was
fantastic.
the Boat Geeks podcast with a beer of the podcast, a word of the podcast. Thanks to Darren and our lovely guest, Peter Knowles, and Travels with Geordie and Andrea. Thank you for being here. That is a wrap,
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much,
Peter.
It's really been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it.
Likewise, and we hope we can have you back.
Sure thing.
We'll see you at the Port Townsend Wooden Boat Festival
Will
for
indeed.
sure in
Will
September.
indeed, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. That's it. Thank you, guys.
I'm daydreaming of a day. I'm not wasting my time. Don't wait till I come alive. Sail away. I'ma sail away. Like being in the sunshine. Waking me up on the bright side. Living for a better day. I'ma sail away. Yeah, I try to live every day to the fullest. There's beauty in everything. I try to notice holograms form from the wind through the trees. There's gotta be more in this world left for me. Sing hallelujah from the basement floor. And I'm still holding out for so much more. Oh, I'm daydreaming of the day. I'm not wasting my time. Don't wait till I come alive. Sail away. I'ma sail away. Like being in the sunshine. Waking me up on the bright side. Living for a better day. I'ma sail away. Now I'm falling asleep on a chair in the kitchen. Wait for a sign, will I learn how to listen? I wanna hear just too easy to speak. Reminding myself I'm not in this too deep. Sing hallelujah on the basement floor. Yeah, I'm still holding out for so much more. Yeah, I'm daydreaming of the day. I'm not wasting my time. Don't wait till I come alive. Sail